Let's look at the cover. It incorporates a whole bunch of different stitches, including the satin stitch, the buttonhole stitch, the cluster, the wrapped bars, the Algerian eye, the interlace, and they are pictured on the back of the card. The Smyrna cross, the queen stitch, etc., the buttonhole stitch. These are the buttonhole stitches all the way around. A buttonhole stitch forms the perimeter of the design. Then the next thing would be to do the cluster blocks, which are these. At some point, you want to do the cross stitches with the satin stitch candles and the queen stitches for the flames. Then, when all of the other work has been done, then you would be cutting and preparing this area, cutting and withdrawing the threads, preparing it for this work, and that would be the last thing that you would do. I'm going to get my needle and thread ready here, and I'll show you the satin stitch, and I'll do a little satin stitch heart.
Do you always use pearl cotton for like the base of the pattern?
Well, the pearl cotton in a size is usually done for the larger stitches because it covers more fabric, the fabric better. And right here, I'm going to do a little satin stitch heart because it is shown on the back of the card, the satin stitch there. But let's make it into a heart shape. I begin on one side, holding my fabrics, my pearl cotton in back, and then I would go over 2 fabric threads, and the next one I would go over 1, 2, 3, 4 fabric threads, just like that. On the back, I am covering that tail with the back side of my stitches. And then with the third one, I come up like this. This is a satin stitch, and I'm going to make the satin stitch into a heart shape. And then I'm going to go like this. I'm going to make it a nice rich heart shape done in a satin stitch. Now I'm at the point of wanting to bring it down. To the point, and then I just replicate the other side by going up. Are you following what I'm doing, Rachel?
I am, yes.
Good. You can see I prefer stitching on 32 count Belfast linen, which is what this is. But to demonstrate, I'm using this 11 count single weave fabric because it demonstrates it easier. And I'm using a size 5 pearl cotton, although if I were doing it, I would probably use a size 3 on this fabric to cover it more fully. But this shows off the stitches better using this. Okay.
What attracted you about this type of stitching specifically?
I loved doing different techniques
Yeah.
and making them part of the design. Because I could do a cross stitch hard, but doing a satin stitch hard is softer.
Yeah.
And to me, it's smoother.
It's a beautiful heart.
Thank you. It is, and you see I've covered that tail with my stitches. And so I slip my needle underneath this, and I'm through. Let me demonstrate not only the satin stitch as a heart, but you can vary it by doing it sideways. And that's what I've done with the candles. I've gone up the satin stitch. That helps it look more rounded.
Okay. So you went diagonal on
Yes.
the threads rather than...
You're right. That's exactly right. So I'm going to do the satin stitch on a slant instead of just straight across. So let's go up 2 and 4. Okay, I've got to hold my thread in back.
That's what I always forget to do.
Yeah. Well, you can always go. Okay, so I'm going to go up 1. See how it is slanted?
Yeah.
And that's why I did it for the candles, because when it's all finished and done, doing it on the slant makes it look like it's rounded.
Like curved, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does that show it?
Yeah.
And I did the candles in the slanted satin stitch there. I'm going to demonstrate the cluster and the interlace. I usually leave a tail in the back. I don't tie knots. And then I make sure that it's covered. I'm going 5 stitches over 4 fabric threads. 2, 3. I would probably use a size 3 thread to give better coverage, but I'm doing this. It's easier to see. 4, 5. Okay. You always have to have 5 over 4 fabric threads, and that's because you're going to be covering those 4 threads that are between there. Beginning thread was there. I can snip it off because it's covered. It won't pull out. And now I'm going to go opposite down here. This is for demonstration. I'm not going to count the number of threads between because it won't matter for the demonstration. But I'm going to, whoops, I should have brought it up instead. Over 4 fabric threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and by just holding behind, beginning thread is covered there. I'm going to snip this off. And then I'm going to cut those 4 fabric threads. And I've got 4 on my needle. And up here I'm going to repeat that again. And now I'm going to withdraw those threads. There. Let's just show how to do a twisting interlace stitch. Oh, this is so much fun to do. So I'm going to go, and then I flip my needle through. I pick up those 2, I twist my needle, isn't that fun?
Yeah.
This is fun.
It's just so much fun to do. Isn't that fun? And it goes so fast too. And then I just secure it on the other side. Okay. This, we're going to do the buttonhole stitch. I'm going to demonstrate that. It goes around the outside of the heart. That makes it so that it covers the fabric threads as you cut them off. Those are hidden. And it's shown here,
Right there.
right there on the outside edge. This is an easy stitch to do. You go over 4 fabric threads. 1, 2, 3, 4 fabric threads, and you catch it there.
Okay.
And let me do a few more, and then I'll show how it can be cut, and it leaves a nice edge.
Okay.
This part, you see, covers.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
making like a twist.
It's called the buttonhole stitch because that's what stitchers do if they're doing on
Oh my god.
on your dress.
That's cool.
And on the back, it looks just like a straight stitch. But now I'm going to do a couple more, and then I'm going to show you how the fabric threads are hidden by that edge.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm just going to demonstrate how I cut. I would begin using these sharp pointed scissors, and the first cut is always scary. But I get my scissors right down there. And I always bring the point of the scissor back up to the top so I know
That you're not cutting the threads.
that I'm not cutting the thread.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as long as you're not cutting the threads, you can't really go too close.
That's right. That's right. Okay. You can see there I have cut it. And on this fabric,
It's pretty thick.
it's pretty thick, and so some of it will show. But usually it doesn't show.
And if it does, it's the same color as the thread.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, you want me to demonstrate how to do the queen stitch up here at the flame?
Yeah.
That is fun.
Is that your favorite in this pattern?
No, I don't have a favorite.
Okay.
I just love using them all.
Okay.
I mean, I can make it look like a flame.
Make it look like a flame?
Yes, by using the queen stitch. A satin stitch might work too, depending how I want to do it, but I like doing the queen stitch. That is this stitch right here, the queen stitch, and it is shown on the inside right as the flame at the top of the candles. And I could show it the flames as a satin stitch, but I wanted to use the queen stitches, so I will do those. And I'm going to go, this is the queen stitch. Once more, I just hold my tail at the back while I do the queen stitch. The first thing I do is count up like this, and this time I'm going to do it over 4 threads, and I come up in the middle, and then I tie it down right there, and it is shaped by coming up again in that same stitch, that same place, and go in the same hole, come up in this same hole, but move it out one more.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so on this, see how it's taking shape?
Yeah.
And I want to do one more, go back in the same hole, but bring it out one more. And then I want to go back. So this hole and this hole have 3 stitches in each. It's going to have a 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I come back in that same hole, back there, come up in the middle, and now I'm going to move the flame out
To the other side.
to the other side. And on a finer weave fabric, it would look better than this thick, clunky fabric. But it certainly shows it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then I catch it. There it is.
To bring it over.
Bring it over and tie it in.
Okay.
And then to pull it to the back and slip my needle under and cut it off.
So you don't tie knots for any stitch at all?
I don't, because so much of it is going to be framed, and you don't want the knot
To be bulky on the other side.
to be bulky. Good for you. You figured it out. Okay. Now, there is the queen stitch. And it doesn't look like the flame that it would up there, because that's done on a finer fabric with finer threads. Okay, let's demonstrate the Algerian eye stitch, which is the one here in the hold. And that's found on the back right there. And in the pattern, it's found right there, 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 there. Actually, what it not only makes a little cute little hole there, but it also helps tie these fabric threads that are going to be cut, helps hold them in place. So I'm going to do the Algerian eye stitch, which is this one right there. I'm beginning by holding the thread in back, and I will go over 2 fabric threads, and just keep going around, back into that same hole. And as you do it, you can pull them tight.
So it
Increases the hole in that middle. Can you see that hole is getting larger
Yeah.
and larger?
So the goal is to pull it pretty tight on this one?
Uh-huh. Yep, you're right. Good for you, you figured that out. It doesn't show, you can't see the hole there, but it's getting bigger than the fabric holes. As I pull it out, can you see the hole increasing in size? Okay. And there. This stitch is kind of fun because you can make some of these longer and some shorter, but for this pattern, they're all the same size.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, that didn't catch, so I'm going to go to the back and tuck it with my final stitches. There.
Ah.
That
And
holds
then
it in place.
At the end, do you go and trim them close?
On the back, I trim them as close as that particular stitch allows.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to do the Smyrna cross, which is going over 4 fabric threads and 4 fabric threads each way, but not a hole in the middle. So I will start at 1, follow the diagram, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and on the inside it's shown there, and there.
Okay.
And then over here too,
All the
wherever you see those. The Smyrna cross can be as large or as small as you want to make it. This time it's going to be the same size as the Algerian cross stitches. So I go like this, 4x4 threads, going clear over them like that. Variations of this stitch are possible by extending one of these, making it look like a star. If I wanted to make it look like a star, I would probably bring this stitch longer
Okay.
at the top and the bottom.
Okay. And this one, you want it like
I wanted
snug,
that.
but you're not pulling it as tight as
That's
the
right.
Algerian eye?
Mhm.
Okay.
And sometimes you will want to make the final stitch be the cross one, depending on how you want the light to shine on it. But usually it's done this way, with the final stitch being the middle one.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to see on the back it's done like this, but now I'm going to tie it off by slipping through these threads. Okay, we're going to do the wrapped bars, but for this I have to cut this. Let's just do it up here. I'm preparing this for the final work. Now I slip my scissors in and I bring it up. I count the number of threads on the blade, and there are 4, and the tip is up where I can see it, and so I cut down like that. And so it's loose on that side. I bring it up here and cut those, and then I would cut these further on down. I removed the horizontal fabric threads. I have the vertical fabric threads intact. The next ones I would cut would be right here and right here. To do this, you always cut at the edge of the stitch, not at the side. If you cut it at the side of the stitch there, it would fall off.
Okay.
So I've cut, and now I'm going to withdraw these. Big clunky fabric.
Pesky.
Yeah, and that's why I like working on the linen 32 count, because it makes it look lacy.
It does. It's gorgeous.
And I'm going to cut these 4 fabric threads and remove them. And I'm going to cut these just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to pull them down out of the way.
Okay.
I've cut, this is just to demonstrate. Okay, now I can do a wrapped bar, which is this one. And I'm pulling these threads together tightly. I secure the back, and I often do a little half hitch stitch there to kind of keep me from pulling it through.
Okay.
Okay, and then I bring it up to the front, in the middle, or let's go to the edge. Bring it up at the edge, and then I just simply wrap it and pull it tight. It doesn't show so well on this size fabric, but this demonstrates it better. And I want to do it right close together.
Okay.
So sometimes I will pull it tight, and I'm just wrapping those fabric threads, and it makes, see how
Nice little, yeah.
it's kind of pretty, isn't it?
It's really pretty.
And here I am at the corner, so I'm going to do one more. And if I were doing this on finer thread, it would be covered clear over to here,
Okay.
fabric. But now I come down and come over like this and grab this one and do the wrapped bar.
And then they're connected, so you don't have to
Right. Mm-hmm.
read.
Right. You want them connected because that holds these fabric threads in place too.
Okay.
Good for you. You're figuring it out, and you're asking the right kind of questions.
Thank you.
That gives me an opportunity to tell you why I'm doing it like I'm doing. Okay, once that bar is full, then I take it to the back and come up over here and repeat it. See
Yeah.
how that's working? Okay, I'll just wrap this quickly, and then I'll show how I take it to the back and hide it underneath the clusters or the buttonhole edge. Hide it under my other stitching.
So then for a pattern like this,
Mm-hmm.
do you just start on like a corner and
And you-
follow it
oh,
all
yeah.
the way around?
Kind of like a ladder.
Okay.
Go down, over, down, over, or up, over. You can work it either direction.
Yeah.
And that prepares it finally for doing this very elegant stitch, the multi-interlace stitch.
Okay.
It's really a fun one. Once you have the ground of all of these bars, then you begin and you weave them back and forth, and it creates that multi-interlace stitch. Demonstrate it first by going up the ladder, and then when we get to the top, turning and coming back down the ladder. So it's done in several passes, and it does give this over and under look.
It's pretty.
Well, it really is fabulous. It is a fabulous stitch.
So you made this stitch yourself? You came up with
Well,
it?
I had seen this doing it by itself in a single, And then I figured out how to do it in a long run.
Cool. That's awesome.
And then I also figured out how to make it go. Turn and go back up in a V.
Well, that's impressive.
I lose track of what I'm doing when I'm doing this, but it's just a matter of following the arrows here in this book. It's also in this book, a collection of beautiful stitches, and I showed it in this book because this is where I did it first.
Okay. And what's that one called?
This is called the Unfinished Sampler.
Okay.
And I called it the Unfinished Sampler because I know that there are more stitches that can be done.
Yeah.
And so they can add whatever they want to. That's why I called it the Unfinished Sampler.
Okay.
One of the things to be helpful is to hold it in the same direction. So this way and this way, or since I'm going to be doing it, I want to show it this way.
Okay, so it's in the same orientation.
It's good. That's a good word to use. Okay, so I want to start it right there, and that position is there. If I were doing it correctly, I would run it under here. Let's do it correctly. And so that I won't pull it, I've got it underneath there. And I'm going to do a little half hitch there so that it won't pull through. How's that?
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Let's just cut this off.
So it doesn't keep getting in our way.
Yeah, I've got a bigger pair of scissors.
My husband used my fabric scissors on paper the other day.
Oh, did you
know.
wring his neck?
I did.
Okay. Now orient it the same way, and I'm starting right here. It's just a matter of following the arrow under, over, and under here, over there, and around, and under, and then move on to the next place. Over and under, over there, and around. So I'm climbing the ladder first. And then coming back down, around, under here, over and around, and move on. Now I'm going back up. See, we've got the one, it's all complete. And so now all I have to do is follow the threads and do 2. And you really begin to see how neat this stitch is when we come back down on the final one.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And you could do as many as you wanted. Once you get your first pattern in and it's right, you can do 2 or 3 passes, but 2 will show it off really nicely. So after you've done the first pass, the second is so much easier, as you just follow the first path the right way. And on a 32 count, I would be using a size 8 fiber for this. Now you're really going to see it as I go back down and double this.
So what do you like so much about working with the small threads and the small fabric count?
It's easier to keep track of what you're doing. And it's a lot about muscle and eye memory. And you just know. Look at that.
Oh, that looks great.
Isn't that fun?
That is.
And if the fiber I'm using were a 3 instead of a 5 on this fabric, it would have brought this really close in so that that weave right there was close.
Okay.
Well, this is just a lot of fun just to duplicate it.
Yeah.
Do you want to try your hand at it, Rachel?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm left-handed, so.
Oh, my husband is too.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
This is fun.
Yeah.
It's like a little puzzle.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that somebody somewhere has figured this out, you know, and done it besides me. But it was fun to introduce it this way in a long line like this on this card.
Yeah.
And you can see what it does on the, when you do it, it's just a tight little weave right there in the middle.
Yeah.
And you asked what I used, and I used a size 8 on 32 count. Rachel, you are ready to start your own stitching now.
I'm excited.
And I want you to start on the 32 count, Belfast linen. It is easy to work with. 32 count is my favorite to do because it gives a cleaner picture, and your pearl cottons cover the fabric threads just right, and your cross stitches look exquisite on the 32 count. So if you can do that, do it. If you have a hard time with 32 count, going to a 28 count would be perfect also. And you're going to use this design. First thing you do after you get your piece of linen, and I usually suggest that you look on here in this corner. It will tell you the size, the finished size. So that's what,
4.13 by 4.5.
Okay, so that will be the size, and you will need to get it at least as a minimum 7 inches, whatever, and then do something so that zigzag around the edges of your Belfast linen so it doesn't fray.
Okay.
And then the next thing I want you to do is work nothing but this cluster stair step here and do it all the way around. After you've done that, you'll have a good starting point for doing the cross stitches.
Okay.
And then you have a good starting point for doing this down here. And you remember that's the one where we flip the needle, you pull the threads out, and you flip the needle to make it. Better go back. You do the Algerian eye and the Smyrna cross there, all the way up here.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, you need to do the buttonhole edge.
Okay.
And that gives you, next to the last thing you do is wrap all these bars.
Okay.
And after they're done, then you do the multi-interlace stitch. Okay?
Okay.
So, we'll have you do this.
Okay.
And he will supply you with the fabric you need and the floss. You don't need a whole skein. You're hardly going to use any. So just think, if he gives you a whole skein, you know you can begin your own stash.
Okay.
I would get these little cards from him too, and that way you can mark
What color
it is, because there are slight variations in the color. And then I'd put them on a ring.
Like one of the binder.
Yeah, that round,
Yeah.
and you'd have a ring. And then get yourself the needles. You need good needles.
What size of needle do you use?
I use primarily 28
Okay.
with 2 strands of floss.
Okay.
I go down to 26 if I'm using like a pearl cotton. And if you need eyesight magnification, I thought at first my grandkids laughed at me with my granny glasses, but I do need magnification. And so you'd be set.
Okay.